Hi, I'm John Fisher from the Conservation Data and Information Systems team. We primarily make a difference to conservation through information management, which isn't all that glamorous and lends itself really well to songs and dances. So instead, I thought I would just give an example to show the scope of the challenge we face and how my team helps to address it. So I thought it would be fun to think about the challenge of finding data in an increasingly digital world. And if we think of a single grain of sand as representing a single byte of data, we can start to visualize what it's like to look for data in increasingly large pools. So I have here about 100,000 grains of sand, and I've dyed a single grain of sand green to represent a single piece of information we're looking for. This 100,000 grains of sand represents a single page PDF. If we drop it in and shake it around, it's still not going to be that hard to find information. Just like you can imagine, scanning a document's not that bad. If we dump it into Sandbox, which is about 700 million grains of sand, representing a single CD worth of data, if we were to mix this all up, it would be a lot more challenging to find. You might be thinking, well, what about Google or desktop search tools? That certainly helps, but that only really works if the data is all online and all in one place. And unfortunately, most of us have some data that lives offline in that file cabinet or desk, or maybe it's an email, but not in the cloud, or maybe it's all over the place. Maybe it's still in paper from our thesis. Anyway, that makes it a lot harder because we don't have all our information in one nice little sandbox. And what if the problem gets even larger? What if we think about the amount of data on a typical hard drive? So 500 gigabyte hard drive works out to be about a city bus packed full to the brim of sand. Looking for that single grain is not much fun anymore, especially if, just like a real city bus, that data is dropped around all over town in different little depositories. The total amount of digital content in the world is estimated to be 500 exabytes of data, or 500 quintillion bytes of data. So if you've ever been to the Sears Tower in Chicago, picture 37,000 times the volume of the Sears Tower of sand, and that's how much data we have in the world to look through. So it kind of makes the problem of looking for a needle in a haystack look like child's play. So what does all this have to do with conservation? My team basically helps this problem in 4 different ways. We help people find conservation data. So that would be like giving people a magnifying glass or sifters to search through the sand. We do that through things like building tools like Compro or enhanced search tools, helping people find what they need. Second, we help to expose conservation information and make it more prominent. So for example, if we've gone through and done a conservation plan or developed priorities, we want to make sure that decision makers have that data readily available, and that when they go looking for data, the first thing they find is the information we want to put before them. So we do that, again, through web publishing, through a number of other tools that help make conservation data more prominent. Third, we manage or aggregate data sets. So things like taking TNC lands or conservation projects or portfolio and stitching it all together into one data set instead of being scattered all over town like our little piles of sand. So we do that through things like spatial data management and aggregation and publishing. So when someone wants to know what are TNC's priorities, we can just tell them, here are all TNC's priorities, as opposed to saying make 50 calls to 50 different people to get 50 different CDs. So we can picture that like taking all the sand and putting it in a single box and sorting it out by grain size and color to make it easier for people to know exactly what they're looking for. They can just drill in and find it right away. Fourth, we support custom analysis. Do a variety of different analyses, things like comparing different priorities, looking for trends in the data. And that really is because having a bunch of spreadsheets doesn't tell us much. We want to know so what. We want to know what that means. So the custom analysis we do is kind of like taking all that sand, sorting it, and saying, wow, it looks like we don't have much green sand. We need to work on that. So that, in a nutshell, is what we do, thinking about sand in terms of data.